All right, here we go. We are now live. I got my notes. So, all right. The title of this is Identity and the Meaning of Life. Sounds bold, huh? So, I'm going to kind of try to explain about how when we find out and discover who we actually are through the person of Jesus Christ, that we can define and understand where we're going and how we can live our lives to be happy. So I'm going to draw from personal experience and my own studies and everything like that. So I don't know if I've ever done this, but quick background on me from what I'm going to be drawing from. I grew up in New Jersey, and it pretty much throughout high school I was a band nerd. I was in theater. I did sports. I played lacrosse, all that stuff. Right out of high school, I graduated in June, and in September, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps to be a trumpet player, actually. I auditioned and I was accepted into the Commandant's Zone, the United States Marine Drum and Bugle Corps. So I had to go to boot camp. That's probably still one of the most traumatic days of my mom's life, because the recruiter shows up in uniform, all business, no smile. They don't want to stop for tea. They come in, you say goodbye, and you leave. It's like, boom, you're gone. That's it. So my mom wasn't thrilled with that. So I spent 8 years in the Drum and Bugle Corps in the Marines. It was a cool gig. We traveled all over the United States, all over the world. The unit itself as a whole logged about 50,000 miles a year in travel. I've performed in football stadiums, baseball. I performed for George W. Bush, the Queen of England, in Scotland, Norway, all over the place. And it was a lot of fun, very, very busy. When the kids were little, they said Dad lived with the Marines and visited home, which is one of the reasons I got out, because I didn't want to be gone all the time. So, yeah, no problem. Backing up, Laura and I, we knew each other. We've known each other our whole lives. We met when we were in like a moms and tots group, because our parents were friends. So they took us. So I had always had a crush on her my whole life, but she was the Catholic schoolgirl and I was the public school, thug. So, but anyways, we got engaged around 1920, married at 21, and were parents by 22. So it was a quick turnaround, and trying to figure life out while I'm in the Marine Corps and leaving for long periods of time. So after 8 years, I decided to get out. It was time to move on, and we moved out here to Stevens City. We knew nobody. We were pregnant with Noah, and all the kids were little. And we had visited out here and thought, hey, this is a nice place. Let's live there. And so we did. We didn't know anybody. We couldn't even call someone up and be like, hey, can you watch the kids so we can go on a date? Nothing. So it was rough, because I went from having healthcare, housing, a salary, all that stuff, because I was a sergeant in E5, to I was working for a local nonprofit. My salary there was $1,000 a month, and the rent for the house I was living in was $1,000 a month. You do that math. I maxed out credit cards. Eventually, I had to declare bankruptcy. There were times it was so rough. Been on food stamps a couple of times. There were times we didn't know, even before I got out, we didn't know where the food was going to come on the table. Been to the food pantry a few times. Very grateful for all of that. But eventually, I thought, hey, I could go to school. So as a 26-year-old dude who had gotten out of the military not too long ago, I started going to Shenandoah University to become a music teacher. So I was there for 2 years. It was awesome. I had played trumpet my whole life, but that nonprofit I was working for, they fired me. So then I find myself without a job and without an income, so I could go to school, and they actually pay you through the military. You get housing allowance and stuff. So it was pretty awesome. But yes. All right. Grace is out today. Can someone go cover? Thank you. Go ahead, Daniel. Appreciate that. All right. Anyway, so I was at Shenandoah, but then after 2 years, I had to drop out of school because that's when my wife started having health issues, and I needed health insurance. So I started working at Sheets. I mean, it was right down the road, and they actually had good health insurance there, believe it or not. I hated the job, but I worked my butt off and went on night shift, and I worked my way up in about a year to be on the store manager track. So I became a store manager, except I was a floating manager. I didn't run my own store for over a year. After at least a year, probably more. After doing that, I would go around to stores and I would hire people. I would, if a store was understaffed, I'd go in, I'd interview a bunch of people, hire them, train them, and then go on to the next store. So after 6 years of that, I was ready for that to be my career. I just was. I was like, okay, I got to do this for my family. I hate the job, but I would come in to say I love being in the choir here at Sacred Heart. That was kind of like my anchor. But then I discerned I could get out and I could leave. So that was a leap of faith. I didn't have anything to go to. So I quit Sheets, cashed out the meager 401k I had there, which wasn't much. It got us through about 4 or 5 months. And as things were starting to get tight, Father Lundberg was transferred here. And so it's really interesting how things turn out and the path you take can lead you to where you are. It was part of the thing why Father Lundberg hired me was my experience at Sheets with being a manager, with dealing with people and hiring people and doing all that stuff. So it really turned out to be useful after all. But it's been a wild ride. So I've been here ever since. Came on as doing band, teaching band over at the school. And then I was doing events, then eventually moved into SASH, youth ministry. And now I'm dropping youth ministry and taking over music. So it's been a wild ride, though, because, I mean, throughout my life, there's been tough parts. I can think of 3 distinct times in my life where I actively thought to myself, I'm leaving the Catholic Church. I'm no longer Catholic. One in high school, one in the early Marines, and one a little later. So I thought, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. I like to party. I like to do what I wanted to do. So it was interesting. At one point I was looking into Wicca. I wanted to be that kind of crap. Later on, in a very much darker point in my life, I was looking into black satanic magic. And then I needed to have an exorcism, a minor one. My head wasn't spinning and I wasn't crawling on the ceiling, but I needed the rite of minor exorcism, because it was a really dark place. So, there's that. I have 4 awesome, beautiful children, very proud of them, but I actually have 12 kids. 8 of them just went to heaven early. So that's another point where it's been rough. I've dealt with addiction. I've dealt with major depression that was diagnosed, ADD, all that stuff. I've suffered a lot and I've caused a lot of suffering. So it's from this perspective that I want to talk to you about identity. Because none of that, the things I've struggled with, my diagnosis, my sins, the things I'm good at, my job, all that stuff, that's not who I am. Those are some of the lenses through which things I've had to deal with. But who I am to my core isn't that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And eventually I did finish a degree too. I even though I left school, back up there. I did finish a degree in theology in my mid-30s. So there's no reason to rush to school. You can take your time. All right. So identity, that's a buzzword today, right? It seems like there's so many different labels now and so many different groups and so many different communities, like join the pepperoni pizza eating community on our sale at Papa John's. Like, what a load of crap. What do people in that community do? Sit around and talk about pepperoni? That's lame. But we have so many more ideas and ideologies and ways that we define boxes that we put ourselves in. And, it says something. Why do we need to do this? What's the deeper thing we're yearning for? What are we longing for? We've heard we want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be understood, right? We want those things. So I need to put myself in a box. I'm this. I'm that. And not only that, now in today's society, we think if we see someone else, if they identify as something, well, that means if you are this, then you must think this. And you must believe this. And only people in this category can think and believe that. We're desperately searching for meaning. We're desperately searching for something to fit in and belong to something. And we have all these different labels. I'm neurodivergent. I'm trans. I'm, cisgendered. I'm gay. I'm a window washer. All of these different labels, but they don't capture the essence of who we are. Now, there's deeper things like race and ethnicity or culture. Those are deeper, more getting closer to the mark. Those are deep experiences of who we are and how we experience the world, right? I mean, obviously, I hate to tell you, I'm not Asian, right? It's obvious, but we have just as many as there's so many different kinds of people in the world. There's different ethnicities and races, and that's a beautiful thing, which shows the splendor of God's creation. But I'm not just I have Irish heritage. But I'm not going to the fullness of my identity isn't I'm Irish. Obviously, I've never even lived there, so I wouldn't even claim that anyway. I'm American. I grew up in America. But where does it come from at my actual identity? So we want to kind of go back to the beginning. We want to go back to the Garden of Eden in a certain sense, because that really sets the stage for our experience. We learned, remember, from Steve Hemler, right? God created the universe and set all those dials, even the ratio of the energy in an atom and the subatomic particles. And if any of those things were, or the way how much gravity pulls us, the whole the entirety of the solar system, the universe, is specifically catered so we can be here. Right? We learned that from Steve Hemler, and it was awesome. I'm going to go a little bit further, because God created everything from what? Nothing. Which means that the default factory setting for creation is for it not to exist. Right? So if God created, there was absolutely nothing, and God spoke, let there be light, and there it was. So there's something holding us in existence. Is anyone here holding themselves in existence? Liars. Nobody here is holding their atoms together or is holding themselves in existence, keeping us going. There's got to be something outside of us that's keeping us here. We can't even make our own hearts beat. That's part of biology, but we don't even have that control. So there's something that Bishop Barron draws from Thomas Aquinas, and he says that God isn't a being, because in order for God to be a being, there needs to be something acting on him to exist. God is the act of being itself. He is to be. I know, it's like, but so in order for us to be here, something needs to be acting on us to exist. And I'm getting to a point here, so just bear with me. If God if he created us out of nothing, and if he stopped his creative power, there would be nothing again. So God didn't just poof, here's the universe, and walk away. Hey, my work's done. God is holding you in existence right now, personally. He's creating you right now. So that means that God is personally connected to you. He's here. His spirit permeates us. So God is the act of being, to be. Because of that, he's here. So he's not far from you. He's not miles away. He's there right now, and he is the force that's causing us to be. So again, what does this have to do with identity? Because your existence is not a mistake. You're not here just because of whatever accidental circumstances. I'd like to tell people too, out of all of human history, right? Because God, he's holding things in existence. So he sees and has a plan and it's beautiful and intricate. Out of all of human existence, right? Out of all the billions of people that have lived or will live, you're here on purpose right now, right this second. He wants you here because you matter. That's not what the world tells us. The world tells you that in order to matter, you have to look good. You have to be good at something. You have to have sex appeal. You have to have all these whatever qualities. But God doesn't care about that. because he's intentionally wanting you to be here right now, in this moment, because you have a purpose that only you can fill. And then once you're gone from this earth, the world will be impoverished because you're not here anymore. Of course, we have an ultimate destination, but so we have these questions about us. Who am I? Where am I going? What am I for? These are the things that we wrestle with. And we search for identity and meaning in so many places. Social media, right? If only I could, everyone's competing with each other to have the coolest posts, to do the craziest thing, to get the most attention because we want to be seen, right? And it feels good when someone hits like. But everyone knows that, at least we intellectually know that social media doesn't show the reality of anything, barely. I could show my dinner, here's my plate, and then the kitchen around's a disaster because I can't cook. So, but then the plate looks good anyway, at least I hope. So it's just barely a snapshot. It's like zooming in on one little thing. So we're here on purpose, right? We're here because God wills it, because he wants you here. And not only that, he shares in us his life, because now we're going back to the beginning, right? Because there's Adam. He's like, whoa, what's going on? Even before Eve, he was in loneliness, solitude, but he figured, because the reason why he was able to understand something about himself is because all the animals were presented to him. He got to name all of them, which also was a big deal, because that was showing he has authority over that. He has dominion over the animals. But he saw there's nothing like me. There's animals here. There's the ducks. There's the platypus. Still wondering on that one, God. But here's Adam. Who am I? What am I for? He's made in the image and likeness of God, which means every single person here shares in the divine life in a way that no other creature on earth does. None. And every single person here is unique and unrepeatable. There's never going to be another you, ever. It's only you. That's why you matter. So Adam's there. What's the point? He's made for communion with God because he knows God. God walks with him through the garden. He can hear him walking. They talk like we're talking now. It's awesome. But Noah's still, he's still lonely. But he sees that he's made for communion with God, but he has a body, right? So we have that body, soul, what we were talking about earlier. A human person we're without one or the other, we're not a complete human person. We're a body and a soul. But it's through our bodies, right, that we act. It's through our bodies that we express the divine life within us. Our soul can't do it, right? Not on its own. And without the soul, our body's just a zombie. I don't know. It's like Walking Dead. We are body and soul. John Paul II says in the Theology of the Body, the body, in fact, and only the body, is capable of making visible what is invisible, the spiritual and the divine. It has been created to transfer into the visible reality of the world the mystery hidden from eternity in God, and thus be a sign of it. So we're getting a little bit into who are we, but also what are we for? We have a purpose, and our purpose is to be that sign of the divine life. We do that through our bodies, which is why our actions matter. And the things that we do matter. The way we experience God is spiritual, but we kneel in his presence. That's physical, right? So every single person here isn't just a random, automaton. Every single person here is meant to uniquely show God's glory and reveal it to the world and to the people that you encounter. That's even more. So then there's some purpose now. We've kind of gone through, who am I? I'm unique, unrepeatable, made in the image and likeness of God. And now my life has that purpose of revealing the divine life that God lives. And we do that. We do that because when Adam was alone, finally here comes Eve. Is that Sash? Awesome. Thank you. And Eve, what did Adam say when he saw Eve? Yeah. Yeah. That's what he said. No. At last, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. It must have been so ecstatic for him to see someone now. He can mirror the divine life because God created us in his image, and God is a community of persons. So we can surmise then that because God is a community of persons and we are made in his image and likeness, we are meant to live in community. We are made for community with each other. And that the most strongest way we do that is in the nuptial relationship, right? Husband and wife, they're meant to become one in their bodies, in their spirits. The two become one. And we could see that written into our bodies. Our bodies reveal the truth of God. And so every single person here is meant to reveal God in his image, which means that every single person has a dignity, and every single person has that character and the quality about them that can never be violated, because every person is another image of God. No matter what they look like, no matter how disfigured they might be, or no matter how amazingly beautiful they are, everything in between, no matter what they do or anything like that, every single person mirrors God in some way or another. So we have a purpose to reveal that, because God reveals his glory through his creation, right? He could just be up there, look at me. But he shares his divine life with us through his creation. So when you think about that, that means, well, first off, your life is a gift to you. You are a gift to yourself from God, right? He gave us this life. And he gave us the freedom to do whatever we want. Because, and we'll get to love in just a sec, love has to be free, right? Love is a risk. If the person doesn't have the option to choose no, it's not free. So God had to allow there to be a choice not to love him. And we know that was that stupid apple tree. But anyways, so if God, he put us here, our life is a gift. He's the author of everything. We're not the author of our lives. I don't just get to identify as whatever I want, because God is the author of my life. And if I want to figure out my life and figure out what my life is for, I have to go to the author of my life. And I have to have a relationship with him. Because without that, it's going to be my whim and my emotions and my feelings, which are fickle, which change all the time, are going to be my master. And I'm just going to do whatever I want and ultimately lead down a dark path. So we're not the author of our lives. We don't get to choose. I mean, we go with who we are and our talents and our abilities in the person that we are. So God gave you. He also gave every single person here talents and abilities and interests. It would be boring if we were all the same. It would be terrible, you know? And so every single person here has those gifts and those abilities to help each other, to serve one another. And also, of course, we want to develop our talents so we can better, you know, as a father, I had to figure out what I'm good at so I can get a job to support my family. But maybe you're going to be in the religious life. Maybe your ability to talk to large groups of people will give you the ability to preach. But God gave every single one of us. We're like a bouquet. The giant human race is a giant, beautiful bouquet that God made to reveal himself. So the gifts and stuff you have for you are for you, but also for everyone. So the ultimate thing is, you are a gift to the world from God, to those around you. So and then we're getting into what is love at this point. So love, I know, someone's thinking the stupid song. We got love, which is free, right? Because I can't force someone to love me. God doesn't force people to love him. They can reject him, and he respects that decision. Love is free, total. It has to be all or nothing. I can't tell my wife I'll love you on Wednesdays, because that wouldn't be love. If you can't love completely, you can't love at all. Free, total, faithful. Love is faithful. I'm not going to just go back on my word, or change my mind or anything like that. I'm going to be faithful to it even when I don't feel like it, because love isn't a feeling. There could be great feelings that accompany being in a relationship with someone, romantic or otherwise, but it's not a feeling. Free, total, faithful, fruitful. Out of a relationship, a loving relationship, again, romantic or not, with friendships, there's going to be good fruit. There's going to be good things that come out of it. You're going to grow in virtue together. All of that stuff. So that's love. So the purpose of love is to be a gift. And so follow my logic here. If God is love, and to love is to be a gift, and if we're made in the image of God, then if we want to be truly happy, we must be a gift, right? Because God gave you to the world. You literally are God's gift to the world in a certain sense, right? Not in like the, not that way. But you are God's amazing gift to the world. And he gave you your talents and your abilities so you can discover that and yourself in those things and develop them. You know, if someone has wonderful musical talent, we all benefit from it, right? Or the people who is an amazing mathematician. The human race benefits when they apply that to improving people's lives and building things. Being an engineer, I look at a number and get scared. It's not going to work. So we are made to be gifts. That's who we are. We live our life as a gift. And because we're made in God's image, that's what's going to make us happy. Question: what is the opposite of love? Use, not hate. Very close though. Use. We see it in today's society all the time, right? People want to use each other for whatever purpose. We see someone as an object that for our benefit. That's the opposite of love. And when you look outside the window at society and we see all that happening, we know why it's a dumpster fire, right? Because everyone's using each other. And that's not what we're meant for. When we go against our purpose and the way we're created, it's disordered. But we're ordered for love. Free, total, faithful, and fruitful. Because that's how we are meant to live our lives to be happy. Now, it's understandable because of sin why we use each other. Because I can't trust. And I'm broken, I'm sinful. I can't trust that I'm going to get what I need. So I need to grab on and hold it. That's what Adam and Eve did in the sin, in the original sin. I say it was Adam's fault because he was standing right there and did nothing while a giant dragon walked into the garden and attacked his wife. He's the biggest loser in all of history. But then Eve was tempted to think, I can't trust God or my husband to provide for me. I need to grasp. I can't accept the gift as it's freely given. I need to take it. And so then after that now, we want to take the gift. We have to make sure that we're taking care of number one, no matter who gets in our way. So that's why things are in a big way, it's so hard right now because there's use. But we live our life as a gift, even in a friendship or even with the random person that you see walking down the street. You know, and one thing working in retail taught me was that if I could make someone smile, you know, when they come up to the register, if I could just make them smile, even if they were being a jerk, there was plenty of that, right? But if I could brighten one person's day, it was worth it. I may never, ever see them again in my life. But at that moment, I was a gift to them because I forgot about the stuff maybe I was going through or that my feet hurt and that I had 7 more hours left on the clock, you know? Or maybe as you're walking through, you help carry someone's stuff or hold a door for someone. It doesn't have to be huge, gigantic, like wonderful things. So those are good too. It's always little stuff, right? It's the little things, the day in and day out. That's what builds a lifetime. That's what builds character. And that's what forms our hearts, because our body and soul are connected, right? Which means the actions we do with our bodies affect our soul. And then again, the disposition of our soul affects the actions we take with our bodies. So that's why building virtue and good habits is so important, because the habits we develop are the things that are going to carry us through. My teenage years and early years in the Marine Corps, I didn't have good habits. I was partying all the time. I didn't want to have anything to do with anything. It was all about me. I barely wanted to do my job. I was just looking for the next time we could hit the bar, right? Trust me, it got old quick, and it just leaves you empty. So we talked a little bit about our identity. Who are we? Beloved sons and daughters of God the Father, made in his image and likeness. I know you've heard that so many times, and I think I've shared with you before, it's hard to internalize it, because you've got stuff, right? Either sins or things. You don't want God to let him in there. I hated myself for most of my life. I can't let God love me if I despise myself. And it took me so long for me to allow him to be my father. And so you got to work that out, to allow God to be your father, and to walk in that. And so then once you have that foundation, everything else falls in place. Then you can worry about, like, what am I going to do? Or, what am I going to believe? Or what's up with this political ideology that seems weird, or whatever. But when you have that foundation, that's the best place from which everything can spring. We have this idea that our job is going to fulfill us, or that we have to find our passion, right? I don't know what that means. Like, is it under a rock somewhere? Like, I have to find my passion and that's going to be my job. No, because that's taking it from the mentality that somehow my intrinsic worth is based on what I do, or that the only way for me to be happy is to have a good job. But again, if my self-worth is in that first, I know I'm a son of God, then whatever I do, I can take passion to it, right? Instead of finding your passion, bring passion to everything you do. Let it be an internal source. And that comes from your relationship with the Father. You may end up with a job you love that's amazing. I can claim that now. But I can also tell you, I hated cheats. I hate it. Like, this whole find your passion thing is like, do you think that the guy cleaning windows on a skyscraper in the middle of a city is really passionate about clean glass? Like, no. Or maybe, but they're doing it because it puts food on a table. So what you do isn't going to be what fulfills you. And you hear that all the time. Well, you got to find this great job that does something. No. Go, be a janitor, clean public toilets, or be a waiter, waitress, whatever it is. If you haven't cleaned public toilets, that's some character building right there, let me tell you. But our job isn't going to be what saves us, so to speak. You're going to have interests, you're going to have abilities that change. And the hobbies, like if you love music, great. You may not end up being a musician, but you can still do music for the rest of your life. I mean, like professionally, you can still do music for the rest of your life or whatever it is. But our job is not going to be where, we ultimately find our fulfillment. It's that initial identity. So as we're moving forward, we got to answer those. You got to wrestle with those questions. Who am I? What am I for? Where am I going? And as you go and as you're approaching adulthood, it's really important to think about that stuff. Otherwise, you end up caught up in the current of all the stuff. You go to college and everyone's partying. Nothing wrong with enjoying yourself, but if that becomes if you don't have an anchor, you get caught up in all of it, and it sweeps you away. And all of a sudden, a couple of years later, you find yourself in a position where, like, I don't even recognize myself. What do I believe anymore? So that base, that you are unique and unrepeatable, that you have a purpose beyond what you do and who you are. And like who you are is like a carpenter or a painter, whatever. Let that be the foundation. I work with guys and deal with this all the time. Men who are 30s, 40s, 50s, and they've never found that. And it's crushing to see these guys who struggle with a compulsion their whole life. And then I have to tell them, like, when they first have that moment, it's tragic that people have gone their whole lives and not realized like how precious they are. So I can't say all this and just in words. It's something you have to ask God to reveal to you. You have to ask him, reveal myself to me. Ask him to say your name in prayer. Have you ever heard God call your name personally? If not, ask him to say it. Or maybe you've never had an encounter with God yet. That's okay. It can come in prayer, or it can come through other people, because God talks to us in so many different ways. And it's not always like the quiet. It can be in quiet prayer or through other people that tell you that thing that you needed to hear at the exact moment you needed to hear it. That's God. Or when you walk out, it's been a rough day and you see the sun shining and it hits you and you're like, that's a God hug. There's so many ways in which he reveals himself to you throughout the day. You got to look for it. But you could still ask him, like, show myself to me. Reveal who I am in you. Because he sent his son, right? To come down and to God, he saw how screwed up we were, right? And instead of being like, forget it, I'm going back to the drawing board, he doubled down on us and sent Jesus. God becomes human. Like, it's hard to even comprehend. Like, there's infinite distance between us and God. There's no comparison. But he came down just to be with us and to redeem us. So Jesus shows us humanity. God wanted to become a human to show us how to be human and bring us back to him. So whatever stuff you got going on, bring it to God. Bring it to the foot of the cross. Bring it to Mass. Don't stop fighting, right? Don't give up. There's times you want to. I've given up before. Despair. It's not fun. But he's always waiting there, ready to, bring you back and bring you back into the fold. Last thing, and then I'll close it. We were talking about God being slow to anger at a scripture study last night. He knows what a giant disaster each one of us is, right? He knows it's crazy, and sees because he's holding us in existence, right? He's right here, his spirit in us. And so because of that, he's slow to anger. He's not sitting here trying to tell you, oh, you did that wrong. He's ready for us to come running to him for forgiveness, so he can give you that another fresh start with whatever it is. So that's about all I got. Any comments, questions? Yes.
For someone who's very stressed about college, what do you say, not knowing whether to make a decision or just wait until if that makes sense? I don't really know what to say.
So stressed about college, should I go or not, or wait a little bit? Okay. Yeah, discerning's hard. So part of it is, of course, taking it to prayer. And I know that's like the kind of catch-all answer. But after that, it's finding what your interests are, like what would you do in college, or what would you not do otherwise? Pray about the options. Kind of come up with a couple of solid plans first. If I were to go to college, what would I do? Maybe X, Y, and Z. If I were not to go to college, what would I do? Maybe X, Y, and Z. Once you have those couple of things in front of you, then it's a little more concrete, right? Then you can pray over that. God, should I do this? If I don't go to college, I'm going to do this. That'd be great. And then go where the peace is. Because when you kind of, when you're discerning something and you're in that stress, part of the hardest thing is to surrender it. But then also when you make the decision or you're leaning towards something, go where the peace is. He'll reveal it to you. And then talking to people that, know what's going on. My personal advice is don't go to college until you're not 100%, but very sure of what it is for. Or at least maybe do the halfway and go to like LFCC or what is it now? I don't know. That place that forsaken itself. Or maybe take some courses there while you're figuring it out. College is so expensive that if you're not sure of like where you're going and what you're doing, you'll end up changing majors or things like that. But also, like, there's no rush. If you're not sure that you really want to go, taking a year off isn't a terrible thing either. I don't know if that's any help whatsoever. But like, once you make the decision, own it, right? So this is what I'm doing, and you're going to trust that there's a greater purpose for it. You can't always see that. You rarely do. But sometimes when you look back on a decision that you made, you can see how it led to something else. So it's stressful. I don't know how y'all do it. I went into the military right away, and then, it was funny because it was December of my senior year, and I had visited like one college. So I said, that's probably not going to happen. So there was that, but it's a tough decision. But either way, like, you can find good to do and fruits from it. So other comments, questions? Yes.
It just kind of reminded me of a quote, I think, from it says, without the creator, the creature disappeared. When God is forgotten, the creature itself is kind of like if you forget God, you can see it in our culture. Like, us as human beings, we're becoming because we're forgetting God.
Yeah. Yeah, and people are suffering because of it. You know, when we don't have the grounding in God, people are suffering. It's not good. I mean, we can see some of the insanity of some of the ideologies that are out there and the things they're saying. And we can say, wow, that's crazy. But people are suffering greatly because of it. And we don't want to see anyone suffering. Anything else? Okay, cool. Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
When you said that God holds us together, right? Like all of our atoms, you said that He holds us together, right?
Well, in existence.
Yeah, because some people just say like that's science.
So what I mean is, like, He's the first cause, right? So yeah, in biology, of course, like, God set the things in motion. So the laws of physics and of biology and thermodynamics and everything else. So yes, but there still has to be that source outside of everything in order for it to be happening. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, the things holding our atoms together, that's absolute science for sure. And that's a good thing. Yeah.
Okay. So like in baptism, like we become children of God, right? So how would you explain to a person that they're a child of God, like even though they're unconscious?
So does everyone hear that? So being that we're made in the image and likeness of God and have the divine, that image imprinted in us, how would you explain that to someone who's maybe not baptized? Is that pretty much it? So, I mean, baptism, of course, we get the invisible seal of God, as one of his, we're officially kind of, I don't want to say even more, but we're part of his children, right? And we receive graces from the Holy Spirit. And then, of course, later on, when we get confirmed, those graces are more unlocked and more permanently sealed in us. So we can access our baptismal grace and the Holy Spirit. Like, we can call on our baptism. If someone's not baptized, we can say, yes, you are absolutely 100%. You have the divine image in you because you are a human being. In order to, God left the practical church so we can participate in his life. Because, right, everything we do is through our body, which is why the sacraments are physical, right? There's water that pours on us when we receive communion. We're eating something. When we go to confession, at least here, we're kneeling down. When we pray, we're kneeling. All this stuff. So, baptism, when we're baptized, we get the invisible seal, and we also have those gifts of the Spirit. So, in order to more fully live in the life of grace that Jesus left for us in his church, we can participate in that through the church, through the sacraments. But that doesn't negate someone who's not baptized as not being made in the image and likeness of God. Does that answer? Okay, sweet. Yes. That's awesome. It's amazing that after the church has been around for 2,000 years, science is finally catching up. It's like, yeah, nice to see you guys finally showed up. So, all right, guys, thank you for allowing me to holler at you. Let's go to adoration.